Good morning everyone. In this session, we are going to see and continue the same topic XML schema and we will define the attributes. We have seen elements in the last session. We will define the attributes and rest of the things in this session. Myself Dr.N.Shirisha, Associate Professor CSE Department from MLR Institute of Technology. So, XSD simple elements. XSD is nothing but XML schema definition. Here we are talking about the simple elements. Means XML schema define the elements of your XML files. Obviously, whatever the elements you have, that you are going to define. Where you are defining the elements, whatever the elements you have in the XML files. Simple element is XML element that contains only text. Only text. Rest of things you don't have. It cannot contain any other elements or attributes. Only you have a XML elements with text, and this simple element can contain only text. It cannot contain any other elements. So, only text restriction is quite misleading. So, the text can be of different types. So, it can be boolean, string, date, etc. So, custom type that you can define yourself. So, we can also define ourselves. So, how to add restrictions to a data type in order to limit its content. So, or you can require the data to match a specific pattern. So, for this what we have is what is a simple element is there are no restrictions, whatever the data types that you wanted to define, we are defining for only text, not for the different formats. In such case, you can use this simple element. So, how to define a simple element? A syntax for writing a simple element is element name attribute. Name is an attribute only, type is an attribute. What type of name you are giving, that you have to define. So, what is the name here? Name of the element. YYY is a data type of the element. This is the name you are defining, this is the data type. So, there are lot of built-in data types, that means a string, decimal, integer, boolean, date, time. So, these are all the data types that you can use in the XS schema. So, in this you will define the elements. In elements, whatever the type you have, type is the attribute that you are going to define. So, type equal to string, you can give. Type equals to time, you can give. That means XS:time, XS:string. Like that you can pass any of the built-in data types. So, here are some examples. Last name is there, age is there, date, born is there. 3 things you have. So, simple elements can be defined. Name is the last name. The tag name you have to define. What is the type? String, because you have passed a string. So, XS:string. For the second one, name is the age. Why you are giving age? That is a tag name that you have defined. What is the type? Integer, because age we are giving in a number. So, integer. Element name, date, born. So, third one, date, born, that is a name. This is also attribute here, but here we are giving it as an element. So, we are defining it as an element, and the name of that element you are passing it as a attribute. And the other attribute is type, date. Why? Because date, born, the date you have to give. For date, we have the type of data, date. You see, every data type is prefixed with what? XS. And this way we write a simple data type. We don't have here complex type, we don't have any sequence type. Just simply we are writing a element followed by the name of the attribute and then type of data. So, default and fixed values. How to define a default and fixed values in these simple element? Okay, we will see that. So, a default value means what? It is automatically assigned to the element when no other value is specified. Okay, suppose the payment, the mode of payment that you wanted to, by default it is cash. Okay, if you are not allowing any other type of payment, then obviously cash is your default payment. So, here you have a name color. Color means text only you have to pass. So, type is XS:string, because type of color red is a string. Default value red. So, what is the default value? So, red. So, that we are giving. So, if you don't have any other option, so defaultly it should be printed in red only. Okay, that is what default attribute meaning. Default attribute means the default value that you are going to pass. Fixed value, automatically assigned if no other value is specified. So, here also We using here's something like you can take as payment. Color is also okay. Payment, what type of payment you are defining? The type of data that you are defining for payment is string, and fixed you can give like cash. That is okay. For the same example, you are replacing this default with fixed. Fixed is also attribute, default is also attribute. Type, whatever the value for this type of data, default value or fixed value, that you have to pass. So, whatever the values you are passing for these attributes should be written in the double quotations. That is the same rule for any attribute. So, XSD attributes, all attributes are declared as simple type. Simple elements cannot have attributes. Simple elements cannot have attributes. If an element has attributes, it is considered be of complex type. So, here you do not have any complex type. These are all simple type. Okay. If an element has attributes, then it is complex type. Say if you have book, you have author, or you have title, then this becomes what? Complex type. Simple elements cannot have attributes. These are the attributes that you are going to define about your element, about the name, about the color. But here we are talking about complex type. When you have other attributes, then complex type is used. But the attribute itself is always declared as a simple type. How to define an attribute? So, XS attribute is used for defining an attribute. How we have defined element? XS colon element. Therefore, replace this element with the attribute. XS colon attribute is used for defining the attribute. What is this name XXX? This is the name of the tag name that you have to define. Type means data type. Okay. These are the built-in data types. We have string, decimal, integer, numbers for numbers. This is for text. Okay. This is for floating points. This is for integers. Boolean, yes or no, or 1 or 0. Date, dd, mm, y. Time, minutes or seconds or hours that you have to pass. So, here is an XML element with an attribute. Last name, language. What is the last name? It is element. What is lang? Attribute. What is en? Value of this attribute. Okay. So, last name is closed. Here the corresponding attribute function XSD LR. How to write the XSD for this? XS colon attribute. What is XS colon attribute? Because my language is an attribute. Name, tag name for which you are writing attribute. It's a language. Language is attribute. What type of data you are passing? String. En is a string. So, XS colon string. Remember that you write XS prefix for every data type that you write. Okay. So, in XML schemas, you have to define element using XS colon element. You have to define attribute using XS colon attribute. All these must be defined inside your XS colon schema. Okay. If you have an attributes for elements, then you have to define XS colon complex type, and under this you have a subtag XS colon sequence. Okay. So, here how to define default and fixed values for the attributes. Okay. Default value and fixed, what is their meaning we have seen. So, how you are defining is simply how for elements how you are giving, for attributes also at last you will define the default is English like that, fixed is English like that. Okay. Optional and required. Attributes are optional by default. To specify the attribute is required, use attribute. Use means use equals to required. Use is the attribute that we are going to give. Okay, for mandatory fields. Okay. When your XML element or attribute has a data type defined, you used to put the restrictions. Okay. So, XS colon date, contains a string called hello, and this element will not be validated because you have date here, type of date, but what is the data that you are sending? Hello world. So that which is not validated. So with XML schema, you can also add your own restrictions to your XML elements and attributes. These restrictions are called facets. These restrictions are called facets. So how to define the restrictions that we can also see. To limit the content of XML element to set of acceptable values. Say age is there. I just wanted to take the people from age 1 to 40. So I cannot write age as 200. I cannot write age as 150. So age limitation is there 1 to 100. So based on our requirement, I can just restrict it to 1 to 40 because less than 40 people I wanted to define. Okay. So it's a limitation. So acceptable values means whatever the possible values you are there that you can assign. Boolean is there. Boolean 0 or 1 can be taken. I cannot write 2 for Boolean. That is acceptable. 0 or 1 is acceptable. 2 is not acceptable. Okay. That is nothing but restrictions. Okay. So here we have a element car. Okay. Element car with a restriction. What type of restriction? Only acceptable values are Audi, Golf and BMW. So simple type only I am using. I am not using complex type, sequence type because I am not defining any attribute here. So simple attribute. So name of my element is car. So XS colon element gives you element. So XS colon simple type. I am just going to define simple type. No complex, no sequence. So simple type you have to define. So restriction. What is a restriction? Base string. What is the restrictions? I have multiple restrictions. When I have multiple restrictions, I need to use enumeration. XS colon, enumeration, sequence type, element, attribute, for everything you need to write a prefix XS for XML schema. So why I am using enumeration here? How many options I have? Audi, Golf and BMW. 3 are there. So 3 values I need to define. These are the options. These are the restrictions. Apart from these, if I have something like Skoda, no, because my enumerations are only 3. I am restricted only to these 3. Okay. So this is how you write the restriction. Restrictions are given using XS colon restriction keyword. I mean that tag. And XS colon enumeration is used when you have a set of restrictions, more than one restriction. Okay, this is my simple type. Then the same thing, the same program how you have written here can also be written like this. Element name I have given, type also I am giving car type. So here simple type, car type, restrictions I am passing. So this is also okay. What is this type of car type? Car type is nothing but the type of car that I am giving. So in this case, car type can be used by other elements because this is not a part of car element. Because that is not a part of car element. So this can be used by any other elements. So here we are using in the simple type. Okay. So restrictions on a series of values to limit the content of XML element to define the series of numbers or letters that can be used. You use pattern constraint. So what are the pattern constraints? Suppose you have a login page. You have username. This username I want only 8 characters. Starting with capital letter then followed by lowercase letter. This is a restriction I am giving. This is a pattern that I am giving. Suppose if I have a password. For so many forms we used to see, it should be minimum 8 and it should start with a capital letter and followed by 1 underscore, 1 number, okay, and minimum of 8 characters. So that sort of pattern I can give. Okay. So here is an example that we are talking about, restriction on a series of values. Series of values means here we are defining a element called letter with a restriction. Letter with a restriction. What is my name of the element? Letter. I am giving a restriction and I am passing the data type string for that. What type of restriction I'm giving? I'm giving a pattern restriction. So pattern restriction I'm giving, XS colon pattern. What is the pattern that you have to follow? All lowercase, A to Z. Only accept value is one of the lowercase letters from A to Z. One of the lowercase letters from A to Z. That means either A, either X, either Y, either S, anything. So, within the square bracket, you are giving this. That means what? One character. That's it. This is the pattern. Okay. So, when you are writing pattern, your pattern is over, your restriction is closed, your simple type is closed, your element is also closed. So, this is making your XSD well formed. Okay. And this is an example where we are giving a initial. So, initials with a restriction. So, 3 of the uppercase acceptable value is 3 of uppercase letters from A to Z. Okay. So, here I am giving simple type, initials, restriction with a pattern. In pattern, what I need to give in value? 3 uppercase letters I need to define. When I wanted to define one uppercase letter, I am giving square brackets A to Z. My second letter should be again a uppercase letter. And my third letter is also again a uppercase letter. So, how many letters? Say M, L, R. So, how many uppercase letters I am using? 3 uppercase letters. That is my pattern. If you are giving small M, L, R, no, it will not consider because that is out of your restriction. It will not allow. So, this is the type of restrictions that you can give for your patterns, using the patterns and using simple type elements. And this defines a choice and with a restriction. Only acceptable value is X, Y or Z. So, either X, Y or Z you have to follow. So, here if you are giving A to Z, you are defining that from A to Z any value is okay. That's a pattern you are giving. So, if you are giving this way, either A is okay, either A is okay. Lowercase or uppercase, anything is okay. That is the meaning here. Okay, here only uppercase you are defining. This dash defines the range. So, here what happens? Here I am giving X, Y, Z. So, possible values are one of these 3, either X, either Y, either Z. You can't write A, you can't take B. This is a restriction. And in this example, if you see, I have something like product and simple type integer restriction. So, what is my pattern value? 0 to 9. That means say 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. Means what? 5-digit number in a sequence. That digit may vary from 0 to 9. Either I can take 909, 9000. That's also fine. Because you are taking 5 digit in a sequence, each digit must range between 0 to 9. That's my pattern. Okay. So, in XML schemas, we can write the restrictions using the enumerations if you have multiple strings, using the patterns if you wanted to define any constraints. So, what is the constraints? What is the description? We have enumeration where we have defined a list of acceptable values, mostly of type string values. Fractional digits, maximum number of decimal places that are allowed, like 1.2 say 4 I wanted to give. So, fraction digits I can give. Length I can give, exact number of characters that need to be allowed. Max exclusive, min inclusive. Max exclusive means the value must be less than this value. Suppose if you are giving max exclusive as 3, then you can possible values are 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. But here min inclusive means number less than or equals to. Values must be to this value. This is the upper bound. Okay, max inclusive. Max exclusive means less than that value. Okay. So, max length specifies the maximum number of characters or list of items that are allowed. So, it must be equal to or greater than 0. Maximum length is 3. So, 0, 1, 2, 3 is okay. Okay. So, min inclusive which specifies the lower bounds. Okay. Minimum means lower bound. Maximum means upper bound. Exclusive or inclusive based upon the requirement we write. Min length, similarly max length, we have min length also. Pattern, total digit, white spaces. Patterns, we have seen number of examples, sequence of characters that are acceptable. Total digits, exact number of digits that are allowed. Okay, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, that many digits only it will be available. Say if you wanted to give 0 to 9 range or 1 to 5 only, then you can't write, you can take this as 6 input. You can only take 2 as an input, because it's ranging from 1 to 5. So such things, how many numbers you can give? Say 2, I can give these 2 patterns. Only 2 possible values it can take. That's the total number of digits. White space and carriage returns can also be handled. So white space or spaces, these two can be given in the attributes. So this is how we write a XML schema using a simple type. So you use a normal notepad like how you are writing XML program. In the same way you will write the simple type also. When you are using a simple type, we are not using a sequence type or we are not using a complex type. When we will go for complex type? When you will have attributes, not default attributes. Other than those, if you have any attributes defined in the XML, then we will go for complex type. If you have a series of child elements in the complex type, then all the series of child elements will write in the sequence type. Okay. If you don't want to use any attribute rather than default attributes, then we'll go for simple type only. So in the two ways you can define a XML schema. So XML schema, namespaces, XML elements, XML attributes, and also 2 types of XML schema, simple and complex types, are discussed in this session. Hope you all understood. Thank you all.